cases soar.
This Delta variant spreads like wildfire.
Olympic outbreak.
People aren't so sure we should have an Olympics at all.
Bezos ready for blast-off.
I'm excited, not really nervous.
Good morning. I'm Steve Kathan with the CBS World News Roundup. COVID-19 cases are now on the rise in all 50 states. They've nearly tripled in the last 3 weeks. And the virus is hitting Olympians just days from the start of the Summer Games in Tokyo. There's word a female American gymnast, an alternate on the team, has tested positive for COVID. CBS's Lucy Kraft in Tokyo says a top tennis name is out too.
The hopes of tennis star Coco Gauff were dashed after the 17-year-old sensation announced she had tested positive for COVID, ending her chances of competing in Japan this summer. This comes on top of USA Basketball losing point guard Bradley Beal last week after he was placed in COVID health and safety protocols. As more Olympic teams descended on the Japanese capital over the weekend, 2 South African soccer players tested positive for COVID. The South African Football Association said the whole team is now under quarantine, with their first match just 3 days away. They will only be allowed to compete if they test negative 6 hours before the match.
4 states made up 40% of the new COVID-19 cases last week, and there's been a surge in Florida. CBS's David Begnaud is in Arkansas, where the vaccination rate is low and concerns are running high.
42-year-old Lamonte Boyd, a married father of 3, says he didn't listen to the doctors or even his wife when she got the COVID vaccine and told him he should too.
I brushed it off. I thought it was a joke.
Boyd was diagnosed with COVID-19 nearly 2 weeks ago. He developed pneumonia in both of his lungs.
Right now, as we talk, my wind is short. That's why, I'm really gasping for air now.
Arkansas has the 3rd lowest full vaccination rate in the country. A little over 1 in 3 people here have gotten both of their shots. This 62-year-old woman did not want to give us her name, but she did want to speak for this story.
It's hard to breathe, so I have to oxygen 24/7. I cough and I can't stop.
What would you say to all those people who are spreading misinformation about the vaccine?
It's a life or death sentence.
Correspondent Ed O'Keefe says some politicians who made news last week when they fled their state have been infected.
5 members of the Texas House Democratic Caucus who are temporarily living in Washington have now tested positive for COVID-19. A person familiar with the situation says that they remain here in Washington, D.C. and have no plans to return to Texas before that state's special legislative session is scheduled to end on August 7th.
U.S. intelligence officials now say they have high confidence that Chinese hackers were responsible for an attack on Microsoft's email servers in March. CBS's Nancy Cordes.
These hackers are actually on the Chinese government's payroll. A senior administration official told reporters that China's Ministry of State Security, quote, uses criminal contract hackers to conduct unsanctioned cyber operations globally, including for their own personal profit. And we are just learning this morning that 4 Chinese nationals have actually been indicted by a grand jury in California for allegedly hacking into dozens of companies and government entities.
Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and 3 others are getting ready for tomorrow's first flight of his Blue Origin spacecraft with people on board. It's an entirely automated capsule. There will be no pilot or flight engineers along. Bezos was on CBS this morning.
This vehicle's ready. This crew is ready. This team is amazing. We just feel really good about it.
An 18-year-old and 82-year-old will be on board, the youngest and oldest people to fly in space. Wally Funk is the senior citizen, a former test pilot.
But I feel like I'm 24. That's great.
Now overseas, CBS's Chris Livesay in Germany has the latest on destructive flooding, blamed for more than 180 deaths in several countries.
After days of swelling rivers, now swelling death tolls as bridges, homes, even swaths of villages vanished. Billions will be needed to rebuild in Germany alone. Some towns are likely gone for good.
It's coming up on 5 minutes after the hour. Credit Karma Money is...
Well, that's today's news. Today's news. I didn't hear any good news, did you? I didn't think so. I guess it's all about perspective. The glass is half full.